Welcome to TCA Next Gen Jumpstart Series with Dr. Amy Wood and Kathleen Manning. I am Dr. Sammie Mees. I am the chair for Next Gen. I'm also a chiropractor. I've been a TCA member since I was a Tri 1 at TCC starting in May of 2015. And I want to introduce you guys to our speakers today. First, we have Dr. Wood. She has dedicated her professional career to helping chiropractors succeed in business. She has been in practice for over 18 years and has many ups and downs in business. Having a proven system that withstood an audit was proof enough for her that evidence-based teaching was the right approach. She has several programs for staff training and on-site training for the whole office. She works with chiropractors in integrated blended practices. In 2015, she was asked to chair the Texas Chiropractic Association Insurance Committee. This was a huge honor for her to be able to help the profession in this capacity. She will help fight for chiropractic and its inclusion and non-discrimination from insurance companies, as well as help fight for the expansion of scope of practice and whatever else comes our way. Please welcome Dr. Amy Wood. Yay. And then our next speaker that will be right after Dr. Wood is Miss Kathleen Manning. She is the founder of Bright Tax Solutions, LLC. She has a Bachelor's of Business Administration, major in accounting, minor in management from Stephen F. Austin State University. She also has a Master's of Business Administration from Mercer University. Over the years, Kathleen has held several accounting and managerial positions with companies such as NAC America, Cox Communications, Merritt Hawkins Group, and MCare. Kathleen's key strengths are problem solving, time and efficiency management, and the ability to communicate complex financial issues in simple, understandable manner. Throughout her career, Kathleen has developed and implemented internal controls, written company best practices, improved profitability, and company growth. When she is not at the office, she enjoys coaching track, roller skating, and spending time with her family. Help me welcome Miss Kathleen Manning. Awesome, guys. If you're just jumping on, Dr. Amy Wood's going to take it here in just a second. Please introduce yourself in the chat box. But if you have questions specifically, please put them in the Q&A, and we will get that towards the end. Again, welcome to TCA Next Gen Jumpstart. All yours, Miss Dr. Wood.
My screen and everything?
Okay, we can hear you, Dr. Wood.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk about kind of the steps that you need to take to get into insurance, the processes, and all of those kind of things. So first of all, this is my contact information. I am local to Dallas, but we do go all over the country. You can text me, you can call me, you can email me. Apparently, I have been hacked on Facebook, so you might get several messages from me. I'm trying to figure all that out, so I do apologize. Like she said, I have been in business for over 18 years. I do a variety of things to help chiropractors, anything from compliance to billing to coaching to making sure that what you do in your office is the most efficient and profitable for you. So the information that I'm going to give is as current as it can be, and it does kind of change periodically. So I don't make the rules, but if you want to see where the rules come from, check out the TBCE website, check out Medicare, Medicaid, Novitas, which is the Medicare provider for Texas, insurance payers, malpractice, Office of Inspector General, and HHS. This is where all the information that I provide comes from. And I try to just give you the source as opposed to say, hey, do it this way, because it may not be the right way if we did it that way. So what kind of practice types do we have? Well, we have single chiropractic offices, we have multiple chiropractic offices, and then we have integrated practices. When we look at these practice types, as Kathleen will go in, the best setup for those practice types can really depend on how you want to structure things, from a single independent office to a multidisciplinary practice. If you're a single doctor in practice, then you might just set up your office to credentialed just under you, just under your tax ID, and then the payments would go individually to you with your name on them. If you're in a group practice, then you would need to set it up as a group practice with the insurance companies, and payments would go under the group's information, the group's tax ID, the group's NPI, things of that nature. When we look at terminology, we look at credentialing and participation, and these can kind of sometimes cross over and get confusing. So credentialing is the process of actually establishing your qualifications. It's doing background checks. It's making sure all your forms are filled out correctly. It's making sure that all the things that you need are in place. Participation is just your act of taking part of something. So once you're participating, that means you're part of Blue Cross and you're going to follow their rules. The first thing that you need is a national provider identification number. The website you go to is NPPES registry, and you put your information in, and it gives you a unique 10-digit individual, and then you also do it for the group. And this is how you report things to an insurance company, is using your group NPI and your individual NPI as well. Now, taxonomy code is another thing that you have to register, and that tells the insurance company what group you fall into. So it's another unique 10-digit code, but it's a classification and a specialization. It goes along with your NPI. When we look at when we look at taxonomies, one of the ones, there's a generic just chiropractor, and that's what the majority of all of us fall under. But there's certain of us that may have certifications in sports or pediatrics or something like that. And they have a whole list, anything from chiropractic internist to neurologist to different things. And you could pick those. The concern that you might want to consider when picking a specialty one under chiropractic is, do you have a certification in that? Do you have the qualifications that would justify you using that? Or are you a chiropractor and just kind of do a multitude of pediatrics and sports and everything, but you don't have certifications? So choosing the correct taxonomy code would be appropriate so that you don't alert the insurance companies that maybe you're trying to be something that you're not. And so it's very easy. You just pick the correct one and mark it down. When we look at Insurance 101, we have to look at, there's many different plans. So we have an HMO, and that's usually the cheapest plans. And so some patients will have those plans because they're cheaper cost-wise, they're more affordable. The PPO plans are going to be more universal, where you don't have to have the patient doesn't have to have a referral to come in. You don't have to be necessarily in network. You can go to an in-network provider or an out-of-network provider. There's no referral needed, and you pretty much go anywhere you want. When we look at Medicare, we fall under Part B, and Part B Medicare only covers the chiropractic adjustment. And so you can get up to 12 visits a month with your patients and up to 30 visits per calendar year. The patient is only responsible for 20% of the chiropractic adjustment, but you still need to charge the patient for the exams, the x-rays, the therapy, and any additional things. That's just cash out of pocket for a Medicare patient, because the only thing that traditional Medicare covers is going to be the chiropractic adjustment. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, do I have to be in Medicare to see a Medicare patient, or can I just see Medicare patients? Well, the way the law reads in 40.4, it says that the opt-out law does not define physician to include chiropractors. Therefore, you may not opt out of Medicare and provide services under a private contract. Physical therapist, independent practice, occupational therapist, and independent practice cannot opt out as well. So what does this mean? If you have a pediatric practice and you want to be 100% pediatric, then you're not going to see any Medicare patients. If you have a Medicare patient that wants to come in, you'd have to turn them away. They'd have to go somewhere else because you would not be credentialed with Medicare. Okay. So if you want to see a Medicare patient, you would have to be credentialed with Medicare. Once you're credentialed, there's one little step that's a little bit more complicated, and it's being par or non-par. Par means participating, okay? If you're going to be a participating provider with Medicare, you're going to agree to accept Medicare's payment for the chiropractic adjustment only. You're going to agree to charge the patient for the 20% and also collect their deductible. You're going to agree to bill Medicare because if you're participating, there's a mandatory claim submission rule that you have to bill Medicare for the patient. You're going to document for this patient just as you would a cash patient, an insurance patient, or anyone else. On our board, TBCE, there is a documentation requirement that is laid out. That documentation requirement does not change depending on which insurance or not insurance or whatever. It's a standard. And Medicare has standard documentation rules. If you're participating, you will be in the provider manual directory for Medicare patients to find you. You have a right to appeal the claim if the claim is not paid correctly. And you're also going to be your reimbursement is going to be about 5% higher than a non-participating. The 20% that the patient owes is going to be paid to you either by the patient, either by another insurance called the supplement, or by another insurance policy called the secondary policy. So there's different ways that 20% can be paid. If you're non-participating, okay, you're still credentialed with Medicare. The patient is going to pay you for the chiropractic adjustment. You still have to submit that claim to Medicare under the mandatory claim submission rule. The patient will get reimbursed for the service, but they're going to only get reimbursed the 80% because they're still responsible for that 20%. Your documentation does not change. You do not avoid being audited because you're non-participating. You have no appeal right, and you can elect to accept assignment or not accept assignment, and we'll get into what that is here. Participation and accepting assignment are not the same thing. They're different. They're different terms. Remember, participation is your act of being part of something else. Accepting assignment is just how you get paid. So you either accept assignment and the insurance company pays you, or you uncheck that box and the insurance company pays the patient. Okay. And that's kind of standard with Medicare or with insurance companies both. So it's not just a Medicare question. Remember that traditional Medicare is only going to cover the 80% of the chiropractic adjustment, and we fall under Part B. There are Advantage plans, and these are going to be your HMOs mostly, where you're going to need to be in network with this AARP, for instance. You would have to be in network, and the patient would have to get a referral from their primary care before they could see you. Now, when it comes to Advantage plans, these are not traditional Medicare plans. These are different. They're still governed by Medicare, but they have some different rules that they follow because they're a hybrid between the insurance company and between Medicare. So they can offer more things like dental and vision and different things like that. In order for you to see an Advantage plan, if a patient has an Advantage plan, you don't have to be in network with that Advantage plan. If they wanted to come in and see you and they had AARP and it was an HMO and you're not part of that HMO, this person would be a cash patient for you in this point. It's only traditional Medicare, the red, white, and blue card, that you have to be participating in, credentialed in order to see that Medicare patient. I know it gets a little confusing, and we can kind of clear up some questions here at the end on that. This is just another example of an Advantage plan and what they might look like. When you're trying to figure out what you should charge, you know, you have a cash price. It's like, what should my cash prices be? What should my insurance prices be? The easiest way to do this is to go to the physician fee lookup schedule. It's either at cms.gov, or you can go to Novitas-Solutions. Takes you to the same place. What you do is you put the procedure code you're interested in. So this is a 98940, which is a 1 to 2 level chiropractic adjustment. You put your state and your locality, and then what it's going to do is it's going to bring up some fees. And I think I have one of those fees in there. No, I guess I don't. When the fee comes up, and I have this over the top of it, so sorry about that. When the fee comes up, say, actually it's right here, $29. What you would do to figure out your cash price is you would take $29.02, and you can times that times anywhere from 100 to 200%. So if I just times it times 125%, then that would make my fee $36 would be my cash fee roughly. And that's kind of how you figure out what your cash fee should be. So it can be anywhere from 100 to 200% of Medicare. If you are not in network with any insurance companies, and you have a patient that comes in that is an Advantage Plan Medicare patient, or any patients that you would, and you tell the patient, I will bill out of network for you. When you bill for the patient out of network, at that point, you become a deemed provider, which means you've agreed to go by the insurance company's rules and standards and accept payment as part of being in network. You just haven't gone through the process. So if you do that, then you become a deemed provider. It becomes very difficult at that point to accept cash for those patients, and it gets a little muddy. When billing for the chiropractic adjustment, Medicare expects us to be in a bell-shaped curve or in a range. Medicare does not expect us, all of our visits, to be a 98940 1 to 2 levels. Nor do they expect us to bill the high level 98942 5 levels. They expect us to be somewhere kind of in the middle, a mixture. And so about 45 to 55% can be in the 98941, 35 to 40 kind of being in the 1 to 2 level, and then maybe 5 to 10% can be in the upper level. But Medicare expects to see different levels that we adjust, unless you're an upper cervical doc, and in that case, it's only going to be the upper cervical that you adjust. And I understand some patients come in and only have one area of concern, and that's fine. But we don't need to have 100% of our patients fitting in one of these categories. They need to be a nice bell-shaped curve. It is illegal to bill under another provider. So the insurance companies have strict contracts and strict wording that says a provider cannot bill under another provider, period. And knowingly doing that can cause you a lot of headaches and heartaches and problems financially with false claims and fraudulent misrepresentation. So it's not something that you ever want to do. In fact, this is, some of you may not know what this is, but this is what we call a CMS 1500 form. And back in the old days, since I've been in practice for over 18 years, we used to have to fill these forms out. Now with our EHR, our electronic health records, these forms are inherently just built in, and the information in the EHR that we use fills this form out. And this is what the information that gets sent to an insurance company, and this is how the insurance company pays us. If we look at the very bottom of this form, and it says in box 31 right here, it says signature of physician or supplier, including degrees or credentials. It says, I certify that the statement on the reverse apply to the bill and are made part thereof. And so if we look at the back side of this, which most people have never done, this very top sentence up here, and it lets you know that it is used by various government forms and private healthcare programs. The notice right here says any person who knowingly files a statement of claim containing misrepresentation or false or incomplete or misleading information may be guilty of a criminal act punishable under the law. The signature that goes down here certifies that the services that were performed were medically indicated and necessary for the patient and were personally furnished by the person who signed that form or whose name is there, or an employee under their direct supervision. So this is really important as some of us graduate and we go work for other doctors or we go work for other people, that we don't have things billed under another doctor for the services that you performed. And there's not things that are billed under you for services that you did not perform. The most dangerous thing that the most dangerous phrase in the English language is, well, we've always done it this way. Well, you may have, it just may not be that you've ever gotten caught or, the time is coming. So we have to be careful. The other thing is we have to know our contracts. We have to know where we stand chiropractically. And so we pull the policies for the insurance companies and they explain exactly what we need to do and how we need to follow things. They explain what non-covered services are. And those are the services we can charge cash for. I know a lot of us probably use Activator and Pro Adjuster, and Aetna specifically doesn't think that those are chiropractic techniques that are covered. So if you're one of these doctors and you're thinking about getting an insurance, let's look at the policies to see if how you practice is going to fit into an insurance policy. This is a whole list of different techniques that Aetna doesn't deem as chiropractic adjustments, and therefore they're not going to cover them. And here's more. And so they give specific definitions. Aetna is also one of those that says it is unproven to treat scoliosis for patients beyond early adolescence. So if you have a patient that's coming into you, if they're exhibiting pain and muscle spasms, you can treat that. But if you're treating just the scoliosis, there's no pain, there's no discomfort, no spasms, Aetna may not cover that. And so I just kind of wanted to give you guys a brief overview of just kind of some of the things to think about if you're looking at insurance, the credentialing process. Keep in mind that if you want to get credentialed in an insurance company, it can take up to 180 days. So it's something that you want to plan for, and it's something that may not happen immediately. So you need to make sure that you understand the time frame of that 180 days when you're setting up your practice. And so I will turn this back over to Sammie.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Wood, for that great information for these students and doctors who are joining us with today. We're going to go ahead and move on with Miss Kathleen. She is the accountant and our second speaker of today. Whenever you're ready, Miss Kathleen.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for having me, and I'm available for questions. So certainly, as mentioned before, if I don't cover something that you have questions about, or if you have questions about something I do cover, please add that to the Q&A. Okay. I'm going to start my slideshow and share my screen. Maybe I should share my screen first and then. One moment. Okay, can everyone see the slideshow? Dr. Wood,
There you go.
can you see it?
Yes, but it's the full PowerPoint.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, I don't see what you guys see. One moment.
It's okay. We just, can you hear me, Kathleen?
I can.
We just see the whole entire PowerPoint with your 6 slides on the left. If you're able to be, there we go. I think that's is what we're, yeah, I think you're good to go now.
Wonderful. Okay, so the topics that I was asked to speak on were regarding loans or lines of credit, and then a little bit on entity formation. And then I briefly want to discuss the importance of keeping good books. So let me preface the loan conversation by saying that having good bookkeeping records is really important. Number one, in case you are ever audited from an IRS perspective. Number two, so that you can make good financial decisions, having full knowledge of your revenue and expenses. And then three, as we're going to get into banking requirements for loans and lines of credit, you'll see that primarily they'd like to see a historical record of how your company's performed. So having said that, I'm going to share with you information that was given to me by David Ng of Prosperity Bank. On the third slide, we will see his contact information. So as I share this with you, if you want to get in touch with David directly, please have a pen and paper ready to jot down his contact information. Okay, so realizing that having the ability to provide 3 years of business tax returns means that your company's already been in business for 3 years in order to request the loans that we're speaking on right now. The next slide, we'll talk a little bit about loans that owners can take out. I realize that some of this is irrelevant if you're just now starting off in business. And perhaps if you have specific questions about what loans might be available to someone who's brand new, David can speak on that. So from the bank's perspective, the list of items David says you would need in order to apply for either a loan or line of credit would be 3 years historical tax returns. And in lieu of that, you'd need to have year-end business financials. So calendar year is January to December. Fiscal year can be anything that you establish when you set up your entity. Some companies go from, 1st of July to the end of June. Again, that's probably a little bit more information than needed. A photo ID, a bio for each of the guarantors on the loan that kind of explains your work history, how long you've been doing what you've been doing. If you're a guarantor, they do like to see your personal tax returns. And if you have other companies that you're involved with, that could come into play too. Sometimes if you're a guarantor, you can have a personal financial statement, which may come from your wealth advisor. And then the contract that you're trying to enter into. So if there's a contract for purchase, asset purchase, stock purchase, something like that, that contract needs to be available for the bank to look at as well. Okay, so lending products where the owners of medical businesses can also look at for financing might include a business loan. In those cases, sometimes they want you to put down a percentage of the loan. So maybe you have skin in the game of 25% and the bank will cover the other 75. You can also do a business line of credit. I did that for my firm to do a renovation in my office, and I was fairly new in my company when I did that. Commercial property is a little bit different. So I realize that some of you all may opt to buy the building that you're going to, or build the building that you're going to run your practice from. And so David added a little bit of information in here on how that might be accomplished. And then there's a medical program for home loans. So there's no private mortgage insurance, up to 100% financing on loans up to $750,000. And that can range to the high end of $2 million. This is only for the purchase of a primary residence, but one of the things you're going to find as a business owner is that some of the traditional loans are harder to get and when you don't have W-2 income. So I think these 4 points are really good. And here is David Ng's information at Prosperity Bank. His phone number is 972-801-5765. You can also email him at david.ing@prosperitybankusa.com. David's, in addition to being my banker in the past and a banker for a few of my clients, he's also a friend at this point. So you can tell him that Kathleen Manning mentioned him in a presentation and you have questions and he'd be happy to answer them. Very laid back and definitely willing to help you out as best he can, and very generous with his knowledge. Okay, so the next topic that I'd like to discuss involves LLC formations. So there are several different entity formations, as simple as a sole proprietor for people who sell Tupperware, all the way through people who just never took the time to file formal paperwork through the state. When you're lacking any type of formal entity formation, that falls into a sole proprietor category, and it's just on a Schedule C. So that likely will not be the case for any of you. I believe most medical providers are either a PLLC. Most professionals are a PLLC or an LLC. There are also corporations and partnerships. I'm going to focus on LLCs because there's something that's very important that I'd like to share. And that is that the IRS doesn't have a tax return for a PLLC or an LLC. So for all other entities, for example, a C Corp, you know to file a Form 1120. For an S Corp, you know to file an 1120S, and so on and so forth. For an LLC, there's no equivalent tax return. So there are some default actions that take place. If you are an LLC and there's one owner, or in the state of Texas, there is an owner plus a married spouse, that counts as one. So one owner or a married couple, that's called a disregarded entity, and it goes onto a Schedule C on your personal return, which is a 1040. If you file LLC paperwork with the state of Texas and there are two or more unrelated parties, unrelated meaning unmarried, I should be very clear about that, unmarried parties, the default for that is a partnership with partnership rules, and that's filed on a partnership return, form number 1065, form 1065. The third option would be to file LLC paperwork and elect to become an S Corp, elect to be taxed as an S Corp through the IRS. And that's an application that takes place, and the IRS responds with an approval letter and giving you an effective date. An S Corp is filed on a Form 1120S. So I think I want to keep this pretty simple. I just want everyone to recognize that as you're speaking with your attorney or you're gathering information about entity formation, just know that an LLC can be a variety of different things in terms of the IRS's eyes. And there is a frequently asked questions page at the state level. If you go to sos.texas.gov, there are lots of pages that answer simple questions like, what kind of entity should I be? What are the different entity types? And there is just a lot of detail there. So I'll leave this topic here for now, and certainly we can come back to it if you have questions. Okay, the last thing I want to mention is, in order to have financial statements to qualify for anything, to apply for a loan, to prove your ability to pay for anything you want to purchase personally, or to create a personal financial statement, you would have to have the ability to create a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, and possibly cash flow. All of those reports can be compiled using QuickBooks. QuickBooks is an Intuit product. There are two versions of QuickBooks. You can buy a license in a box at Costco or Office Max or any of those places for around $250 to $350. And the pricing depends on the depth of the product. They have a few simple ones, just a basic QuickBooks file, and they go all the way to QuickBooks Pro. And that just, if you flip the box over, they have different abilities. So somebody may not need to do in-depth inventory or something like payroll. And so some versions have less capability. At any rate, the desktop version, you're purchasing one license. It goes on your laptop or your computer, and you can use it for as long as that product works for you. You don't have to pay again. QuickBooks will stop issuing any type of support or patches to correct errors after 3 years. And when that happens, you'll just buy a new license, and there's a few links you can click within QuickBooks to roll it over to the new version. All of your information stays present, you just upgrade. So that's kind of an inexpensive approach. If you do that, make sure that you're creating QuickBooks backup files, because if something happens to the computer storing your QuickBooks data, could be problematic. And there's no default cloud backup or anything like that. So it'd be up to the user to ensure their data is safe. The second version is online, and the prices vary. Here's a quick example of some of the pricing. The one thing I want to point out here is under, for example, Simple Start, that $25 has a line through it. Under Essentials, the $50 has a line through it. If you read the small print, the price for the online is actually what has a line through it. So they're advertising that you can get Simple Start for $12.50 or Advanced for $90 a month, when in fact, that's an introductory period. And by the time you figure that out, you've already gotten all of your books started, and hopefully into its mind, you will be committed. So the introductory period is usually 3 months, and then the pricing is actually what is stricken above the $180, $80, $50, and $25 per month. And that is for the life of the license. So the pricing is as long as you need QuickBooks. So keep that in mind as you're making decisions. The desktop product does work really well if you're going to have it in an office or at home on a computer where you feel you can back up your data safely. The benefits to having online are that you can use it from anywhere. So if you're in the office, you can log in. If you have multiple users in multiple locations, they can all access the same file. In QuickBooks Desktop, unless you have remote access to that computer that contains the data, multiple people cannot use the same software at the same time. Okay, so that's everything I have for today's presentation. Let me stop sharing my screen, and then perhaps you guys can let me know if there are any questions I need to answer.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, for the information that you have given us, as well as Dr. Wood. Thank you so much for both of you guys for allowing time for us to have you on with this great webinar for our students and new doctors. And if any of you guys have any questions regarding to Dr. Wood's or Miss Kathleen's presentation, please put those in the Q&A below on the Zoom screen. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put those there. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know that our next TCA Next Gen Jumpstart Series webinar, another one's going to be done on January 28th. That's a Friday at noon. And that's going to have Texas Board of Chiropractic Examiners, TBCE, is going to be joining us. And they are going to be sharing the application process and becoming a new doc, along with your do's and don'ts, and the general CE questions and the human trafficking, and all that's going to be covered. I think that's going to be an extremely good one for you guys to join. And so mark that in your calendars, January 28th at noon with TBCE. And it looks like, Kathleen and Dr. Wood, that there are no questions at this time. And if there's one that pops up, that's fine, because I'm going to pass the baton over to Miss Kara. She is our Executive Director with TCA. And she's going to give you some updates and info. And if there's a question that pops up, we will answer it. Again, thank you attendees for joining us today. Again, thank you, Dr. Wood, Kathleen, and it is all yours, Miss Kara.
Hi, everybody. I appreciate Dr. Wood and Kathleen being on the event today and doing the presentation for everybody. And Dr. Mees, thank you for organizing and arranging the panel and having these wonderful speakers for us today. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And for everybody who's on this call and your friends and colleagues didn't make it, we will be putting this recording out there and pushing it out on our social media. So anyways, again, my name is Kara Tanwar. I'm the TCA Executive Director as of June 1st. I still consider myself pretty new. You may know Janet in our office, that she's been around for a while. And we also have a new employee, Shannon, who is currently working on our next two big events next summer, or in 2022. Of course, Chiropractic is June 10th through 12th in Frisco. But before that, we have Midwinter in Lubbock, February 18th to the 20th. And we'll be pushing out those events here very, very soon and just getting the word out. I know we have a lot of interest on those. Other things that we're focusing on December, staff in the office will have a new website to work towards. We already have a template and just adding some information, and we'll do a push on that as well. So hopefully you'll see that sometime at the end of December, beginning of January. And just getting some new ideas out there. I think we are putting together a women's summit at some point next fall for our female DCs out there, and some more information to come with that. We're looking at doing a golf tournament in the late spring, and then just working towards other district events and that sort of thing. I've had the pleasure of visiting the 5 large Texas cities through the tour of Texas back in September and got to meet a lot of the DCs then. And I will definitely be in Lubbock and hope to visit the other 6 districts that we have, the smaller and medium-sized ones that I have yet to visit, but I hope to do that in 2022 as well. Always feel free to reach out to me. The best way to reach out to us at the office is info@chirotexas.org. You can always reach out to us on the phone. It's 512-477-9292. And then just visit us our website, chirotexas.org. It will look better in a month or so than the one you see now. So we'll hope to have some more public information out there as part of our strategic plan, which is another project that the TCA leadership has been focusing on. So that new website is part of that strategic plan. We hope to definitely educate the public more about the value of chiropractic, getting more people into offices. Another element of our strategic plan is insurance and getting higher reimbursements for our DCs. And then the third one, always, always, always making friends in the legislature, because in order to make progress, we have got to make friends. So right now, redistricting, PAC fundraising, all of that is coming down the line because the 2023 legislative session will be here before we know it. But anyways, thank you ladies again for being here today. I didn't see any other questions come in, but Dr. Mees, I'll hand you the floor over again so you can take over. Thank you.
Awesome. That is pretty much it in a nutshell for us today. I know you guys hear it again. Thank you so much for the dedication to us. Without you guys, we could not have this webinar. If you guys have any other further questions, you can email the TCA office and we can get those questions answered for you. Other than that, any other questions, just call the TCA office. Have a great day, guys. Thank you, ladies. And we will be seeing you January 28th for our next webinar. Bye, guys. Have a good one.